Hello and welcome to the Growing Green podcast. Your host, Jeremiah Jennings, is the owner of Growing Green Landscapes in Birmingham, Alabama, and has a passion for growing the entrepreneurship community for those who are young in business. Being a business owner isn't easy, especially in the early years, and that's why in this show we dive into a wide range of topics covering all the challenges small business owners deal with. Even if your company is generating $1 million or more, the stories from our great guest and Jeremiah's own firsthand experiences will propel your business forward. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Jennings.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode today here on the Growing Green podcast. This is your host, Jeremiah Jennings, and I am so excited to be coming to you today with another fresh new episode for you. And this one's going to be really fun. This one's going to be one that we've never done before. I don't think I've ever had a pastor on the show yet. My dad has not been on the show. He's a pastor. I grew up in a pastor's home. A lot of you guys know that I'm a PK. So people, I grew up with that all the time. But we are lucky and honored to be joined with James Dickson, local pastor here in my hometown, mutual friends with Jason Creel. So I know Jason texted me and said, hey, I think this could be a good podcast for you. I said, hey, if he's mutual company with Jason, then I know you're a good guy. So I'm excited for this. I want to hop in and like you said, busy morning. I think y'all are in the process of selling a house, so I know what all that is like. And you're just running from one end of the street to the other, just trying to keep up with everything. So I want to be respectful of your time, man. Let's just hop in. Tell everybody who you are, what church you're with, and then kind of I want to hop into some leadership principles and talk some high-level stuff today.
Well, thanks, Jeremiah, man. It's so good to be here with you. James Dickson. I am currently pastoring Christ Church PCA in Trussville. Yes, we are selling a house. My family and I are actually in the process of a move to St. Louis, Missouri. I'll be working with Covenant Seminary there in St. Louis.
Oh, wow. So you're about to head out. I didn't know that.
Yes, we are.
Oh, wow.
In January. So, and that's coming out of some work that I've been doing with Covenant in terms of leadership. And so, there's a combination of sadness. We're leaving a church that we love, a community we love, but excited about what the Lord's got in store for us. So,
yeah.
But it's great to be here with you this morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. So let's just hop in. I grew up as a pastor's kid. I grew up in a pastor's home. Let's walk through some of let's get some of your backstory first. What is your backstory? How did you come into the role of being a pastor? How did you feel like that call was put on your life? And then how have you just kind of developed and grown over the years?
Well, that backstory is a long and winding road.
Yeah.
For most of us, but I was in business prior to ministry. Had worked in my mid to late 20s in banking and corporate investment banking in Atlanta, and then joined a family business up in Greensboro, North Carolina, land development and home building business. And was a part of that business and growing it and opening up a division in Charlotte, but had been sensing a call to ministry all along the way, and in some sense running from that call. But in 2008, we wound up shutting that business down, and I sensed that it was the Lord stopping me from running, and it's a lot longer story, but I resonated with a truth in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, where Paul and Timothy to a point where they despaired of their own lives, but the Lord brought them through it to teach them to trust in Him. It's just a sense of the Lord saying, I'm calling you to ministry, and you can't do it unless you're trusting in me completely. And so He brought me to that point. So at age 35, went to seminary in Charlotte, North Carolina, and in some sense, coming to Trussville was a little bit of a coming back home. I grew up in North Georgia, but wife and I had been going to school at Auburn, and a lot of friends and family in the state of Alabama. So we moved here to plant Christ Church PCA 12 years ago, and have been pastoring since.
Yes. Okay. So I didn't know this was the actual church you planted, but you also, I mean, people don't know obviously around the country, but y'all just got a brand new building, within the last year or two, right? Has it been 2 years?
We did 2 years. Well, 2.5 now. We moved in July of 2001. So we were building a building during COVID, and that was a white knuckle season.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we moved in July of 2021.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome, man. Well, how did you make that jump? So we're going to take some similarities today from being in ministry, running a church, being a high level leader, and putting those into the position of being a business owner, leading a team, growing a family, things like that. How did you make that jump? We have a lot of guys that are trying to start a business and they have a full-time job, but they're starting as a side hustle, and then they say, well, I don't want to do the full-time job anymore. I want to go full-time lawn care or whatever they're doing, hardscape, whatever it may be. They're on the fence. They're on the fence about it. How did you make that jump to decide, hey, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and go to seminary full-time and then go into full-time ministry? Because obviously you felt like the Lord was leading you there. He had a strong presence on that. But you also have to look at real life scenarios, and that comes down to like money. You have to have money to survive. You have to have a house. You have kids to feed. Like, how did you do that? What led you through those processes? How did you feel like you made the right decisions, and advice you would give to people that are on that fence right now of trying to decide, hey, I want to go into this business, but how do we make that jump?
Well, there's several factors in that, Jeremiah. I mean, first and foremost, I want to make sure that the glory goes in the right direction. The Lord provided beautifully, supernaturally, to allow us to do that. But part of His work, I think, was preparing us in prior years to do a lot of savings and conservative financial practices that allowed us to go in not with extraordinary debt and to be well positioned for it. Now, having said all of that, it was a massive risk, and we got to the point where we had ministry and business had been part of our heartbeat. I have grown in my understanding of what this means. I didn't fully grasp all the implications of what it meant to run a Christian business, but that was our heartbeat when we were in business. And through that, and a lot of time that I would spend just pursuing and discipling other men in business, the Lord was making clear that call. But there came a point in time when He was in a variety of ways showing me it was time to make the leap. Now, we had some savings built up, but we didn't have great clarity on how we were going to survive through seminary. And yet we got to the point where we knew it was right. And for us, part of that was a realization that any resources we had were kingdom resources. And so we wanted to live in light of the kingdom of God. And that meant if we were burning through our savings for seminary, then we were going to do that. Now, the Lord provided in some surprising ways. And my wife went back to work as a nurse while I was in seminary. I worked 20 hours a week in the church. But I think part of it is if you're talking about people that are looking to make that entrepreneurial leap, you got to know, hey, it's hard. There are challenges, there are risks, but if you believe your calling is to take that step where in some sense you're your own boss, in some sense you're leading others in a manner that's consistent with your vision. You've got that vision, then the risk is put in perspective, but you also got to know it's going to take everything you got, and it's going to take it's going to take bridging that gap to get the business going. And that may mean, well, it does mean your family's got to be all in. And so you've got to have those conversations with your family as you go. And then for us, from seminary to plant a church, there were, look, I want to be careful how this sounds. It's the church. It's not a business. But when we were waiting out the calling to plant a church, we just believed that it was the Lord's call in our lives and consistent with the vision He had given us. And so that meant we were taking a route that was, from an earthly perspective, more risky. It was an established church with established finances, and so it took a fair amount of fundraising. It took a lot of sacrifices, but just was consistent with the vision we felt like the Lord had given us.
How did you and your wife go through that? So how many kids did y'all have at the time of the church plant when you decided, hey, let's plant the church?
Yeah, we had 3 kids. We had 3 kids when I went to seminary. When we moved to Trussville, our kids were in the 5th grade, 4th grade, and 2nd grade. And there was a lot of prayer involved, and there was daily conversations that we were having. Okay, the Lord's calling us to ministry, but that can take on a lot of different forms. And so I think communication through that process was huge. But I'll be honest with you, Jeremiah, we did everything we could to pray about that, to seek counsel from others who had church planted and others who had church planted in various parts of the country. We did everything we could to pursue that with eyes wide open, and yet we got to the field to actually plant the church, and you just never prepared for all that you're going to encounter in any business, and certainly not in church planting. And so we spent a lot of time once we began that work in counseling, seeking out other mentors who would help invest in our marriage, because we knew it was going to be a family affair. I don't know that we had an appreciation for how much of a family affair it was going to be. And
can anybody truly, though, before they do it? That's the thing.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And so I think the call is to be humble enough and vulnerable enough to just say, okay, I didn't anticipate all of this. And so I need godly counsel. I need mentors in my life. I need prayer partners who are going to love me enough to speak truth into my life and to care for me as I go. And so I think that was a huge part of not only the conversation going into church planting, but the conversation once in it, to keep growing together.
Yeah. The growth process is one that I think gets overlooked a lot. You get married, and my wife and I have been married for 3 years, so babies in the whole process of like the lifespan of being married. But what we have learned in these 3 years is we've surrounded ourselves with people who make us better. We've surrounded ourselves with people who care about our relationship, who want to see it flourish. And I think that there's no way that we would be where we are now, which is nowhere, but we're in a lot healthier spot than some people are at 3 years in. And there's no way we would be here if it wasn't for getting around the right people that care about you, like you said, and your well-being. And I think when you go through a journey like this, like a church plant, or it just comes down to like you're taking a huge risk. When you start a business, you're taking a huge risk. Whether you have all the dominoes lined up, ready in place to fall or not, you're still taking a risk because, like you said, it's the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. We just started a new trash can cleaning company here in Trussville, and it's like it's a risk. We don't know if people are going to like it. We don't know if it's a service that people are going to want, but it's just part of it. It's just part of the risk we take. And those risks can have really big tolls on your marriages if you're not totally involved, like totally on the same page, I guess you could say, about doing that. And so that's my question to you is, when y'all were going through that process of making that decision to become church planners, like, how did you get your family bought in? And like we said, no one really truly knew how much it was going to take, but you still have to put things in steps in place.
One of the benefits that we had in ministry that you don't have in business, but I think it's helpful to kind of hear this principle from what we did in ministry and find ways to mimic it. Our denomination has what's called an assessment center, where before you go plan a church, husband and wife go for 3 or 4 days, mm-hmm. and it's kind of a spiritual poking and prodding, and examination, and you submit yourselves to this and you receive their counsel. But we went together and allowed others who had gone down this path to know us and to speak into our lives and to prepare us for this process. And so we didn't go it alone. There was a lot of conversation that Anna and I were having, but there were also others who had gone before us who were speaking in and helping us discern this call. And even when they got to know us and they said, "We believe you're called to do this," they gave us a series of recommendations on how to grow once we got into church planting. And so I think it's, when you're trying to make that decision, there's a conversation together, but there's also allowing others to know you and to speak into your lives. Business doesn't have that denominational assessment center, but you've got older, wiser people in your life that I think you got to listen to. Titus chapter 2 speaks to older men speaking into the younger men, older women speaking into the younger women. And I think there's just a biblical call to listen.
Yeah, no, I'm in 100% agreement with that. And that's something that Savannah and I have done is our closest friends are not 24 and 25. Our closest, which is how old we are, some of our closest friends are 35 and 40 because they've just gone through that phase enough to still give us like good advice on raising and developing toddlers and young children and doing that whole thing. And it's a process that I think, like you're saying, in business, you don't have someone that can assess you like you do in ministry, but you have these soundboards. You have people that you can go to. You have people that you can build friendships with and relationships with. And the definition of a true friend is finding someone who truly loves to see you succeed and truly makes you a better person when you're with them. And when you can find those people and you surround yourself with those people, then that's when you grow and that's when you flourish. And I would say, I would go out on a limb to say you probably had 3 to 5 of those couples that y'all got pretty close to in this process. Am I wrong in that?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And they are so dear in our lives. And they loved us enough to even tell us the hard things, mm-hmm. To push back on some things. And so you need somebody who will even provide that constructive criticism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me just say something else about the marriage piece that I think is important. In Scripture, Ephesians 5 tells us that marriage is a picture of Christ and the church, or Christ and us. And I think there's a couple of things that are true, that are helpful about that picture in this conversation. One, the moment at which we are converted, the moment at which we come to Christ, we are in that moment legally, for the lack of a better word, His, and yet we spend the rest of our lives growing into the reality of that belonging to Him. Mm-hmm. So we're His, and then we spend the rest of our lives growing in that reality of really experientially being His. The same is true in marriage. And the day you married Savannah, you were legally one. But you're going to spend the rest of your life experientially growing into that reality, which means you don't stay static. You don't stay the same. You're going to grow over time together. And when you have that perspective, it allows you to, realize that at 3 years, your marriage ought to be richer than it was on day one. And in 30 years of marriage, I'll be richer than 3 years. Just gives you a sense of, okay, I'm changing. My wife is changing. And so expect the change to come together. Business, family business is an all-in venture, and there's going to be challenges in all of that. But when you're in it as one, it changes the perspective, and that oneness is going to grow over time. So have that perspective, and it gives you a sense of patience, I think.
Yeah, that's good. No, I like everything you said there. Let's transition just a little bit over into some leadership aspects, because like you were saying, you don't run a business, you pastor a church, you lead the sheep, and that role comes with a lot of responsibility. Also, a role that comes with a lot of responsibility is being a business owner. And they're similar in the fact that you are both trying to lead your team, you're trying to lead your staff, you're trying to lead your congregation, we're trying to lead our employees, we're trying to take care of our customers the best. There's a lot of crossing similarities there. And over your time of being a lead pastor in that role, you've grown the church, you've built a congregation, you've built a staff around you. What are some key things that you say would take away and say, look, if I went back and did this all again, this is exactly what I would do again. I wouldn't change these. Like, what are the things you think you did right? And not you, but just, you know what I mean? Like, the right decisions that were made, the Lord led you in to make the right decisions of leading a staff, leading a congregation. Like, you have a lot of decisions that fall back on you at the end of the day. So give some insight into that, if you don't mind, of people that are growing businesses, growing teams. How do we make those right decisions, and what are some principles that you say, hey, I believe we did this right in growing this congregation, and I think these are some key aspects you can take and put into your business?
Well, yeah, great question. And having been in business and planted a church, no, the church is not a business, but there are a lot of similarities. And I think if you go back to the very beginning, one of the things that I think is essential is, and it sounds simple, but you got to remind yourself every day, you've got to commit. You're all in. This is not something that we're just trying out to see how it works. No, I'm giving my life to this, and I'm all in. And that full-hearted commitment is necessary, a necessary component of resiliency. And a small business owner has got to nurture resiliency. It comes from knowing I'm all in on the good days and on the bad days. And so I think a leader has got to be intentional in their commitment to the vision and to the organization that they're leading. And I have seen that over and over and over again in my ministry in the church. And so I think that intentionality and commitment is one. In the church, but it's not just in the church. We talk about not just a servant leader, but a shepherd leader. Biblically, a shepherd has two roles. They feed the sheep and they fight off the wolves. And that has been an important part of my leadership in the church, I also think it's important in leadership in business that you're nurturing the hearts of your employees. You're nurturing also the hearts of your customers. I think that's one of the ways that you build a loyal customer base and grow a business, that you're not just you are concerned about the transaction, but you're not merely concerned about the transaction. There's a relationship that you're investing in, and they need to know that you're nurturing them. But then there's also you got to fight the wolves, and those wolves show up in a lot of different ways and places, and they show up in the church, they show up in business, and so we got to not be surprised by it. So I think that that is important. But there is the servant leadership. One of the things that we do in our church is we do an anniversary banquet every year, where we do two things. We celebrate. I'm learning to celebrate more. That's an important part of leadership, because what you celebrate becomes the core of your culture. And so we have an anniversary banquet, and we celebrate what the Lord is doing, and we recommit ourselves to the vision. So we every year revisit the vision of our church, and are continuing to grow every year in that vision. At that banquet, we renew our commitment to the vision. We celebrate what the Lord's done, and then we have our pastors, our elders, and deacons wait tables. We're there to serve, and we have fun with it. But we're reminding our officers, you lead by serving others, and that is done intentionally to reinforce something in the mindset of the officer, the elder, the deacon, the pastor, but is also setting a culture for the whole church that this is who we are, this is what we do. And I think when the business owner is the lead servant, that sets a culture for the employees, and we're willing it blesses the customer base. And so I probably have learned that more in terms of, I think I maybe knew it early on, but the importance of celebrating it and embodying it in some of those ways, just culture matters, and the business owner, the leader, is meant to really nurture that culture. And then I think being a non-anxious presence. Everybody's dealing with anxiety. Your customers are dealing with anxiety. Our temptation when we're confronted with that anxiety is to respond in like kind with an anxious response, because we have this mindset that the leader is the one who has the loudest voice. But I think the call instead is to respond with a non-anxious presence, and to be a steady presence. I think that is important for your customer base. I think it's important for your employees, and I think those are sort of the maybe they're the soft skills of leadership, but they really move the needle.
Get ready for the annual Black Friday and Cyber Monday extravaganza at the L'Entrepreneur Academy. This isn't just a big deal, it's an explosion of unbeatable offers on all of Brian Fullerton's game-changing training courses and resources. Seize the moment to supercharge your business for 2024 with the education and expertise you need. Enjoy an incredible 30% discount on everything, excluding coaching calls, until the clock strikes midnight on Cyber Monday. Monday. Ready to go all in? Score a jaw-dropping $400 savings on the exclusive whole ball of wax. This epic bundle includes full lifetime access to all training programs, all future additions to the Launchpreneur Academy resource site, and a power-packed one-on-one coaching call with none other than Brian himself. Use code SAVE30 at checkout to unlock an instant 30% discount across the entire store. For those diving into the whole ball of wax, enter code SAVE400 to slash $400 off the total cost. Act now and transform your business trajectory. It's time to dive into the savings and knowledge at LaunchpreneurAcademy.com from Black Friday straight through Cyber Monday. Unleash the potential of your business with mind-blowing content and unprecedented savings that will redefine your entrepreneurial journey. A link with instructions is included in the podcast description.
I think that's huge. Being a consistent leader, I think that is a huge takeaway, because you're right. As the leader, as the visionary, your employees look to you as someone who's going to give them an outlook, give them the next step, give them not necessarily what they want to hear, but a vision moving forward. And if you are bouncing all over the place from point A to point B to Z back to D, then like, how are your employees ever going to trust anything that you say, much less like keep up with the pace you're going at? And
Right.
some of us are bred that way. Some of us are bred that like, and most entrepreneurs are like, hey, we're going to take on 4 or 5 different things. We're going to run with it. We're going to balance them all and make it all work. And I think that can get unhealthy, because you might be able to handle it. Most likely your spouse probably can't handle it. Your kids definitely can't handle it. Your employees can't handle it. So like, I think that being a consistent leader, we have to realize if we're going to lead a team and grow a team and grow a customer base, they have to have someone they can come to and say, hey, this is our constant soundboard of someone with, and maybe if you say you can't do that, you this is your gift, you are good at envisioning and creating and expanding, then you're going to have to put someone in place who can be that soundboard, that consistent leader. You can be high level CEO and you can be strict visionary, go out, create, expand, but you're going to have a high level leader in your company who everyone comes to and says, hey, he's the liaison from the employees and the customers to you. And he takes your craziness and not dumbs it down, but simplifies it to where the normal human can understand it. And
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying you can't be that way. If you think you are bred and that's your gift to just go out and create and expand and do it, but make sure that you're doing it in a way that other people can understand and come along with you. Well, I tell you what, man, we're 30 minutes. I don't want to hold you much longer. We've talked leadership. We've talked marriage. On top of all that, you're also an author. Talk to us about the book, what you've written, what it's about, and where people can find it.
Sure. Recently published a parenting book titled 1,000 Little Moments, Grace-Shaped Parenting. And the book is not, it's different than a lot of parenting books in that this is not a how-to formula. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think I'm qualified to write that book if such a book were needed. But secondly, I don't think such a book is needed. I think what parents need more than a set of formulaic steps to follow so we can get our kids to bed on time is more of a holistic way to think about parenting. And I get it, because particularly when my kids were babies, I just wanted somebody to tell me what to do. But that had such narrow application and didn't fit my children that I quickly learned I needed something more, something deeper. And so probably a couple of thoughts on the book. Number one is the title, 1,000 Little Moments. And some of it goes back to the leadership that we've been talking about all along in that non-anxious presence. I think parents can tend towards one of two extremes. On one end, we can be anxious and controlling. On the other end, we can be apathetic and detached, and maybe we can swing between those two extremes within the same day. But an image helps me balance between those two. It's the image of a photo mosaic. Maybe you're familiar with photo mosaics. It's when you have 1,000 little thumbprint images, little pictures that are compiled together, so that those many images actually are placed in such a way that they form one picture too. So there might be a person, but it's really 10,000. Little images. That image helps me think about parenting and helps me guard between those two extremes. Because on one hand, we can be tempted. I think the anxiety in parenting comes when we think that an individual moment is going to determine the course of our child's future. We put too much pressure on that moment, whether that moment is a Little League baseball game, whether that moment is a spelling test, whether that moment is whether or not our child's going to eat Brussels sprouts for dinner. We place everything in that moment and we make it too big. Well, the photo mosaic says the whole consists of each individual little moment. No one moment paints the whole picture of who our child is going to grow to be. So we can be a non-anxious presence in the moment. And yet, each individual moment matters. So I don't have to be anxious, but I also can't be apathetic. I can't be detached, because every little deposit I'm making in my child's life is going to be part of what contributes to the whole. I think it gives parents a longer term perspective, and is helpful. And so we talk about in the book what those moments, how do we approach those little moments? And over the course of 18 years, shape the heart of a child. That's one thought on the book. The other is, I think we all in our mind have an image of who the model family is that we want to mimic. When I look at the Bible to find that model family, guess what? That I don't see it. Most of the families in the Bible are a mess, and so
I've never thought about that. That's so true.
Yeah. And so when I look at the Bible for a model family, maybe it's not the family that's the model, but maybe it's the church. A hard one for us to get our arms around, because all of us have experienced difficulties in the church. But I would say that as the church is designed, because as the church is designed, you've got a body of people who are covenantally committed to one another, who are giving of themselves, who are investing in the lives of others, who are loving, who are caring over the long term. And so if that's the case, then maybe church leadership is the model for our parenting. And so I look at the way Jesus prepared the disciples to go plant the church. And what are some of the principles in Jesus's discipling of the disciples that I can apply to my parenting? And I think there are four. I'm sure there are more than four, but there are four that I draw out. Engage, delight, shape, pray. We talk about each of those four principles in the book, and how Jesus embodied them and how we can embody them as parents, and then offer some examples of what does that look like when those four come together in the way we are intentional with our young children, intentional with our teenagers, intentional about sending those teenagers out into adulthood. So we're just trying to apply on.
That's amazing, man. I'm definitely going to have to pick up a copy of that, because that is something that I think we can definitely implement into our marriage and our parenthood as we've begun. We have a 1-year-old, so Like, we're still in those beginning stages, but it's like you said, every little moment does matter. It's not one defining moment. It's just a bunch of little ones pieced together. So right. I'm excited to get my hands on that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we've got a website,
yep.
www.jamesdickson.org. The book's available basically wherever books are sold online. There's a link on our website that'll take you to the Amazon page for the book. On that website, there's also a series of blog posts, and there's a workbook that can be downloaded for free. We tried to put that together with a publisher so that small groups or Sunday schools could go through this together and process it in community. So that's all there on the website.
That's amazing. Well, guys, we'll have that website in the show notes today. Make sure and go pick up a copy of that, implement it in your household, give it to someone. Maybe you don't have kids yet, but read it and start preparing, or give it to someone else. And I think this is something I would like to see done more often. Get around, find some people that you know like to read, that you want to be like close to. Gift this book to someone who has kids. Let them read it. Let them make their notes in it. Let them jot down, hey, this is good. This is what we've done. And then ask for that book back when you have a kid, and see how that changes. See how you read that book differently in the future when you have someone who puts their spin on it. So maybe if you don't have kids yet, that could be a way to look at it. You definitely need it. You might not need it in this moment. Gift it to someone who could use it. Let them give their feedback, and then take it and run with it. So, James, I am so appreciative of your time today, man. I know you had a crazy morning. Is there any other way to get in touch with you? What's a good way that you don't mind sharing to get in touch with you for maybe someone who just has a spiritual question or a leadership question or any type of anything like that?
Sure. Well, so I think the website is a great way. There's a way to contact me through the website.
Perfect.
I'm not a huge social media person, though. I am on Facebook. Find me there, but probably the website is the best way. And there's a contact page, a contact button there, and would love to connect.
Awesome. Well, guys, there you go. Check out the website, get the book, get in touch with James if you have any questions. I'm sure he would be happy to help you. And at the end of the day, all this talk is great, but it comes down to, what does your spiritual relationship look like? Where are you going when you die? What is that? Are you a believer, or do you have your destiny fulfilled? Do you know where you're going to go? And I think that's what James would say. He would throw all this other stuff away as long as you can get that one thing set straight. So if that's a question on your heart, reach out to James, reach out to me. We'd love to help you in any way possible. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this one, share it, like it, subscribe to the show, leave us a big 5-star rating and review, because those help us just grow the show, just like we're trying to do here, and growing the community one relationship at a time. So without any further ado, that's going to wrap this one up today, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to catching up with everybody here on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Growing Green podcast. It is an honor to have you listening, and we hope you receive valuable advice to help take your business to the next level. Don't forget to follow the podcast so you'll be notified when our next episode drops.